welcome to All About Boston. I'm Seth McCoy. Joining me tonight, I have two guests. Tim McCarthy, who's the newly elected District 5 City Councilor, and then joining us in the next segment will be Michelle Wu, who of course has been elected in the at-large, one of the 4 at-large seats. If you have any questions tonight, you can call us here at 617-708-3290. Tim, I have to say, for people at home who don't know our previous relationship, we have known each other for forever, basically.
Yes.
Since I was a toddler and you were in junior high.
I was in junior high, correct, yes.
So we've known each other for a long time. We worked together in the mayor's office. I obviously knew from day one when Rob Consalvo decided he was going to run for mayor that you were going to go and run for this seat. And lo and behold, here you are as the District 5 City Councilor-Elect. So congratulations, number one.
Thank you very much.
So had you always wanted to run for office?
That's a great question. Yeah, you know, I think I enjoy, I do, I know this is very cliche, I do enjoy serving people. It's always fun to see something, a project finished, you know, a kid get a job, or, you know, whatever you can do to help people. From the little things to the bigger things. This is something that my wife and I talked about a little bit throughout my career. We've been married almost, it's coming up on 18 years in June, so, you know, we've talked about it. It was an interesting conversation we had after I found out Rob Consalvo was going to vacate the seat. She was really hilarious. She said, listen, you know, if you want to do it, something you've talked about for a long, long time, you're either going to go in and go full speed and win this thing, or don't ever bring it up again. This is your chance, you know? And it was funny, and we took the chance, and it was great. What a great experience.
Yeah, and Maureen helped you, your kids helped you.
Yeah, my kids, I was talking to Dave here in the studio earlier. That was really something special. They knock doors every single day. And when you have a 13 and a 15-year-older who, you know, knock doors on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of summertime and they don't roll their eyes, it was really worth it. And it's great because I've always had a great relationship with my boys. I've had the father-son. I've had the disciplinary father-son. I've had the Xbox. We're all gamers, so that's another relationship. And I've been the coach and the player. And this was another relationship that we kind of built this summer. We're really all on the same team. We had the same goals, and that was to get me to win this race. So yeah, it was a good team.
Yeah, was there ever a moment during the summer when you're campaigning? Because I know a lot of times you guys go away, whether you go to Hull or other places.
Yes.
Was there ever a point where you were just like, what was I thinking? What am I doing this for?
Yeah, you know, the toughest time was in the summertime. My wife Maureen's family, we have a house down in Hull, and it's jammed with people and kids and wiffle ball and horseshoes and all of that. And there was a lot of days where it was 95 degrees, and I'm knocking doors with my right-hand man Steve and a couple of volunteers, and you know, I'd say to Maureen, take the boys. You know, it is summertime. Let them go. Let them go down there. And yeah, it was tough knowing they're down there playing, you know, playing wiffle ball, and I'm knocking on doors, 95 degrees. It was crazy. Yeah, but it was worth it.
We actually have a phone call, so I'm going to turn it over to the caller. Caller, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Pat from Hyde Park. How are you doing?
Good, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. I have a question for the new councilor. First of all, I just want to say, Tim, congratulations.
Thank you, Pat.
And I have 3 children. 2 have summer jobs with the Youth Fund. One is at George Wright, and one is at Franklin Park Institute. They've had great experiences. I have another one coming up a couple of years from now. If you could talk a little bit about your vision for where the summer jobs are going, and I know that you have a lot of experience in that field. So if you could discuss that.
Thanks for your question, Pat. We should talk a little bit about that, because your background, I mean, like I said, we work together in the mayor's office in neighborhood services, but you've done a lot of different jobs within the administration. And one of those was
the summer jobs guy. Yeah, I started out in neighborhood services in 1993. I actually started under Ray Flynn. Back then it was City.
Before my time.
Yes, way before your time, you youngin'. And it's a funny story. I literally bumped into City Council President Tom Menino coming out of church. And he said, you know, hey, what are you doing? And I told him I was bartending, going to school at nights, and doing everything that anybody who tries to skip a year in college does. And yeah, I went in on a Monday. I got interviewed on a Tuesday. I met Mayor Flynn on a Wednesday, and I was in room 708 in City Hall on a Thursday. So it was a crazy, crazy tornado there. And then in 1996, the mayor appointed me director of the Boston Youth Fund, which some may know as the Red Shirts. All the community-based organizations and nonprofits in the city know it as their bloodline to making it through the summertime. So Patty mentioned he has a daughter at the zoo and one son who works at the golf course. And I will be talking to Mayor Walsh soon about the Summer Jobs Program. The Summer Jobs Program not only helps the kids who are actually in the job, but there's a huge ripple effect. And I've given this speech 1,000 times as I'm up in front of the legislature asking for more money, if I'm talking to city councilors back then for more money. And the way I look at it is this. Let's take any nonprofit in the city. Let's take the Danmar Boys and Girls Club, Dorchester. I'll go out of district. Danmar Boys and Girls Club. You know, they have 500 kids that rotate through their program every single day during the summertime. They have a morning shift, they have an afternoon shift and a night shift. They have like 90 kids that work there. But it's not the 90 kids that are the only people who benefit. What the kids who go there benefit, because they're working with teens of their own color, their own shapes, their own sizes. It's not only the kids that help, it's the mother or the dad who dropped those kids off, or the grandmother who dropped those kids off. They don't have to pay exorbitant prices for daycare. So when they drop their kids off, they know they're going to be safe, they know they're going to have a great time, they know they're going to learn something, they're going to be loved, and they can go to work with a peace of mind. And if you're going to work and you have a peace of mind, but you're using 80% of your pay to send your kid to daycare, it's kind of easier to stay at home. And that's a process we need to stop. So the Summer Jobs Program should be year-round. We have little components that are year-round. When I took over the program, one of the first things I tried to accomplish, and I did in '96, was make the mural crew year-round. So if you're in the city of Boston and you see your murals, we're closing in on 200 murals. We've only had 3 murals that have ever been tagged because artists respect each other's art. And some of the murals are about ready to get redone. I'm a big arts fan, so I want to make sure that that program stays alive and can grow if possible. And in the long run, you've got teenagers who are painting, but you also reduce, the graffiti busters from coming out and constantly scraping things off a wall. And we've made the program so it incorporates the neighborhood. So the neighbors in the immediate area have a say about it. Heidi Schork, who's the director of the mural crew, is fantastic, and she'll meet with the neighborhood group and say, well, what do you want? What do you think is appropriate for this neighborhood? I got to say, one of the things that stands out about you as a newly elected city councilor is the fact that you know the ins and outs of the other side, if you will, so well. And I mentioned this last Tuesday during our election night special, where if you're sitting across from a department head who's saying, oh, we need X, Y, and Z because of A, B, and C, you actually have that knowledge to say either yes, you do, or no, you actually don't, or how about we work it a different way. So I think you bring a much needed component. Certainly there are other people on the city council who are attuned to the budget. Councilor Murphy, of course, Council President Murphy being one of those individuals, but you also bring that knowledge base where you can just say, I know what you're talking about, I know where you're coming from, and yes, this is right, or no, that's wrong. Yeah, it's really a best practices part that I'm going to take to the job. And as you said, neighborhood services, we deal with all the city councilors. When I was the neighborhood coordinator for High Park, Rosendale, and West Roxbury, I worked with Councilor Menino, and then I worked with Councilor Danny Conley, and now Councilor Consalvo. So I'm going to take the best practices from all 3 of them, their strengths and their weaknesses. Don't ask me the weaknesses on camera. Their strengths and their weaknesses, and I understand that, and I want to take that to the neighborhood. And our neighborhood's changed. We're a very diverse district, and that's the strength of our district. It's I don't take that as a negative. I take that as a strength. And knocking doors all summer long, I'm very proud to say we knocked on every single door in the district, every single one. We started at the end of April, and we finished the Sunday before the primary. Wow. We knocked every single door. You know what you could have used while you were knocking doors on those hot summer days? Some FOMU ice cream. Okay. Which is I don't. Tim's like, what are we talking about? I don't know. So FOMU is, I try to get this in on every show. It's an ice cream shop. They have 2 locations, not in your district. They have one in Alston and one in JP, and it's the best ice cream you could ever have. So well, FOMU. Then I would have to throw in that you could go to Ron's Ice Cream in Cleary Square. That is true. And you could have the number 8 ice cream in the entire planet, apparently.
But they don't have dairy-free ice cream.
No, they don't.
Which is a problem for people like me.
It's not a problem for me.
Exactly. So coming in as, you'll obviously be sworn in January 6th, I believe is the date.
Yes, Monday the 6th, yeah.
Yep, with the new mayor, Mayor-elect Walsh, which as you were talking about working with him, it just was, you know, it startled me for a minute because, of course, everybody's so used to hearing Mayor Menino, but now, of course, we have Mayor Walsh. So you'll be sworn in with him as well as several new city councilors. That must be just exciting. I mean, it's really historical on all sides.
It's amazing, and you know, the people in particular who ran citywide. You know, I met Michelle earlier on, who's going to be your guest later on, and we hit it off right away. So we'd bump into each other at all of these events, and you know, she was a phenomenal candidate running around, meeting people and greeting people, and she did so well. I mean, she's just so well prepared, and she's going to be, you know, she'll be fantastic. And Michael Flaherty, I worked with before when I was in the, you know, when I was director of the Youth Fund, as well as even before that. And Michael and I are friends, you know, outside the building, so that's going to be an interesting part. And every sitting city councilor in there, I know personally, I've worked with, and I think they know what they're going to get from me. You know, there's an old saying, what's the difference between a wise guy and a politician? You know where you stand with a wise guy.
Right.
And I think they understand that's kind of the way. I have a bit of a filter, but I enjoy just putting it out there on the table. How I feel is how I feel, and I don't like the backroom games, and I want to make sure that ends. And I think, you know, Mayor Walsh, I almost called him Mayor. I have to call him Mayor. I have to call him Mayor Walsh now. He's talked about giving the city council, you know, a little more juice, a little more transparency, more effectiveness, more, you know, input into what he wants to do into the future, and he respects that. I'm really looking forward. I've got a lot of ideas that have been cooking in my head for a long, long time, and I'm ready to put them on the table, and I've been writing them at home, and I'm starting to put them all together now. So January 7th, when the door finally opens up in my office, we'll be open and ready to go, and Mayor Walsh will receive several letters from me in preparing for the next coming budget.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Are you going to have any problems listening to people call you Councilor McCarthy? It's
very strange. Yeah, it's very strange. I think I'll get used to it. Hopefully, hopefully for a couple more years. Anyway, it's been great. I mean, my boys have been. They've been great, and you know, my wife couldn't be happier that I've made a transition into something that I'm really been looking for. You know, I'll be in Public Works. I'm still in Public Works now. I'm in the Commissioner's office, and I'll continue to do my job to the best of my ability until the end of the year. And
wait, are you going to take any time off?
Yes, I will be taking a little. December 20th will be my last day in the office. January 2nd, I'll actually be no longer a Public Works employee, January 2nd. So that would have been, I started in April of 2005. So yeah, it's a good stretch.
What are the first 3 things you want to accomplish when you get into the office?
Sure. I think right away, District 5 is a very interesting district because we have 3 main streets. Hyde Park Main Streets, Mattapan Main Streets, and Rosendale Village Main Streets. Rosendale Village Main Streets is truly the epitome of what Main Street should be. The interesting part is I was involved in Rosendale Main Streets 20 years ago. And I've done this, I've said this to a lot of people, especially when I'm knocking doors in Rosendale, you know, and I compare Rosendale to the other districts. 20 years ago in Rosendale Square, and that's what it was Rosie Square. It wasn't Rosendale Village, it was Rosie Square. You'd go there to get a haircut at Sebastian's, or maybe go to Judy's travel shop if you needed to travel somewhere. But you
cut the bakery.
In the bakery, and you cut through Rosie to get to to Forest Hills. You know, and now it's a destination point. But 20 years ago, when I was in neighborhood services, and you were in diapers, apparently.
I was in diapers.
Yes, exactly. You know, my main call was, you know, soiled condoms and needles and graffiti and broken glass and smelly urine in Taft Court. Now your biggest complaint in Rosendale is I have to wait 45 minutes for a restaurant to sit on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, which is a great problem to have.
Exactly.
So my message has been to Mattapan residents when I knock their doors, and Hyde Park residents too. You know, you got to have faith. More has to be done, especially in Mattapan and Hyde Park. I think one of the first things we need to tackle in Cleary Square and in Mattapan Square is the traffic flow. you know, Public Works, we came in and we did some crosswalks and we did some different things to try to brighten up the area a little bit. But the real issue with Cleary Square, Mattapan Square is traffic.
Yeah.
It's parking. Rosendale, from a 10,000 foot view, it really is a rotary. It's a giant rotary. So if you want to go to Delfino's or Sophia's Grotto, and you're ready to have a nice Thursday night dinner, you know, if you can't find a spot, you kind of make a loop around, and you're okay with that.
Right.
Where in Mattapan, if you come in and you want to stop at a store, you just got to drive almost into Milton before you turn around.
Right.
And Cleary Square is very similar, with the addition of the library wing on the library and the addition where they reconstructed around the YMCA. If you pass Fairmount Grill, which is a great restaurant, if you pass that, it's tough to get back around to find another spot. And after 2 or 3 times, you say, let's go to Rosendale. You know, you try to find somewhere else. So that's one of the first things I'm going to try to tackle. I think the second thing that near and dear to my heart is an indoor sports facility.
Which we have actually talked about many years ago.
Years ago, yeah. I coach travel basketball now. I've been coaching as you know, I've known more as coach than counsel, that's for sure. But we go to different facilities all over the state, and they're all 7, 8 basketball courts in a row underneath a big building. They have concession stand. They really run very well. The city, we have to start thinking outside the bubble and outside the box. And I understand that, you know, we have some community centers, but the High Park Municipal Building, as hard as, you know, Bobby Hickey and Winston Lloyd and those guys work there, it's a little city hall.
Right.
You can call it anything you want, but it's a little city hall. It's a basketball court that has a track around it. You can't shoot 3-pointers from the corner. It's a, you know, every time that Marty, the new recreation director, sets something up, he has to break it all down because somebody else is coming in next. You can't keep up that pace. We need a true community center in Southwest Boston that has, you know, 4 or 5, 6 basketball courts. Maybe not even make them wood, maybe make them a sport court so you can play futsal, you can play soccer, you can play street hockey. But then we have to be self-sufficient. So I look at the Franklin Park Golf Course and the George Wright Golf Course. Clearly 2 of the wonderful courses, really gems of Boston. I know you're not a golfer yet.
I'm not a golfer.
We have to work on that.
Miniature golf.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But you know, those are phenomenal places, but the Parks Department now has rein on those, and the money that they make goes back into the courses. It pays for the staff, it pays for the upkeep of the course, and they actually make money. So now they're having improvements to the course. Why not take that concept and put it into our community centers? Because I go to a court, like I'll tell you, over Thanksgiving I'm going to go to, we have a tournament in Mansfield, the MPC in Mansfield. They have like 12 basketball courts. They have a concession stand. They have it would pay for itself after a couple of years. And I have a business plan that I've put together where I know we could build a facility in Southwest Boston that could service High Park, Rosendale, Mattapan, West Roxbury, and Jamaica Plain. And you could have like right now, my team practices at Roxbury Latin because we can't find gym time anywhere else.
Wow.
And now with soccer becoming huge, they're practicing year-round, so they're taking up basketball gym space.
Right.
And lacrosse is huge. I know I have a Laxboro myself at home. My son Dolan's a big Lax guy. And they have practices indoors. And so now the basketball courts are getting even thinner. And in my neighborhoods, in my district, basketball is a premier sport. It's a prime sport. And when I have to say to kids, well, we have to look for gym space because Lax is playing on Thursday nights and they're playing on Tuesday nights, and girls basketball is playing this night, and girls softball's having indoor practices. That's really one of the things that we need to tackle. And I would love to see a master plan, not just one plunked in Southwest Boston. I'd like to see a really good business plan put together and have 5 or 6 of these facilities built throughout the city. And then we can get more into the Mayor's Cup and really have a true Mayor's Cup where you have an 8th grade team from Hyde Park playing an 8th grade team from Mattapan playing a team from Charlestown, and rotating gyms and really trying to bring Boston together. Because even though we have 20 Main Street business districts, we're all connected. And sports has always been a way to connect neighborhoods.
Exactly. So Mayor Menino is, by all accounts, probably your most well-known constituent.
Yes.
So obviously you haven't been sworn in yet, but have you talked to him since you won? Are you nervous that because he has been the urban mechanic of the city that every little thing that he sees, you're going to be on his speed dial?
I will answer his phone calls like I always did. Well, it's funny. My wife and I bought a house in 1996, and we happened to buy on Chesterfield Street. Now,
Chesterfield Street is the Mayor's Street.
But now
it's City Councilor
that's
McCarthy
right.
Street.
That's right. Come January 6th, it's now my street.
That's right.
And he's just a guy who lives there.
That's right.
No, it's. I think his teaching earlier when he became the urban mechanic, and when you and I shared an office in neighborhood services. Back then it was what you see out your front door is the most important thing. And all of the meetings that I go to and all of the speeches I give, I always bring that up. Christmas is coming, and you open your mailbox to grab a Christmas card. If you look out and the street light's out, and your street looks terrible, and there's trash blowing down the street, and there's a lowrider zipping by going 90 miles an hour with the music pumping, you walk back in the house and say, I don't know if I want to be here anymore.
Right.
As a city councilor and as a government, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And our work with the Boston Police Department, the CSOs, and I know you've worked closely with community service officers. I will clearly talk to Mayor Walsh about making sure that our community service officers are incredibly well trained.
Right.
I know that we have some community service officers that are now officers that came out of neighborhood services, which is
Yes,
a perfect leap because they understand the zoning process and the community process. And we don't need just crime watch meetings. We need the CSOs to really be an extension of basic city services.
Exactly.
And I have some thoughts about the basic city services team as well. We've had a great team over the years, and it needs a little bit of revamping. I'd like to see the ISD and the Parks Department and Public Works and Transportation under one true branch, under one cabinet head or one chief. I'd like to see a second level of cross-trained people. I find like when I go to a community meeting and we're talking about pedestrian ramp reconstruction, time schedule, what's going to happen in your neighborhood, how we're going to make it as easy as possible, and we go to those community meetings. Generally at the end of one of those meetings, somebody will say, hey, that tree down the street, do you think you can trim that tree for me? And I can't give them an answer because I'm not in the Parks Department.
Right.
If you have people better cross-trained, then you can have people say, yeah, I can take care of it because they're in my cabinet.
You know what else you can do is say, take out your phone, put on the Citizens Connect app, which
Connect.
By the way, if you don't have the Citizens Connect app and you have a smartphone, definitely download it. I use it all the time, literally in my neighborhood on Fort Hill. I walk down the street, I see a street light out, I'll take the photo, send it in, overgrown weeds, take a picture, and I cannot even tell you how, well, I do it anonymously because that's just how I am.
I get the email back. In fact, I just got one. The Knights of Columbus in Reedville had the street light out, and at 12 Walcott Court, and I just got the email back that light has been replaced. So,
because I do it anonymously, I don't get those emails, but I can attest and testify to the fact that I will then the next day drive, my regular route home, and sure enough, whatever I've sent in has been remedied, and it's great.
Yeah, so the people know what happens is when you pull that up in the Citizens Connect, you'll have an option to take a picture of your issue. There'll be a drop-down box of what type of issue it is, and then they'll have a brief description. So if it happens not to be in that drop, if it's something strange, whatever the issue might be.
Overgrown weeds,
Overgrown weeds isn't one of the lists, but you can say, hey, you know what, around this handicap ramp or whatever, there's overgrown weeds. You can type that in, and then when you send it, you'll get an email back that says, thanks for calling the mayor's office. You'll get a tracking number. And if that doesn't get taken care of in a reasonable amount of time, you should be getting an email back that says, this is why we can't do it. And like street lighting will do it all the time. There's a street light out. Well, it's not a bulb. It's a conduit underneath the road. We have to, pull wire. We have to do it. It's going to take more than changing a light bulb.
Which is the issue with, I think, my street light down around the corner.
We'll talk. We'll talk offline.
We will.
And you get the email back. It says the job's been complete. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. And if they don't get response from Citizens Connect or don't have a smartphone, you can certainly call your future, one of the future city councilors from District 5.
They can't fool me.
No, and of course, I just want to add that for people at home, even if Tim is not your city councilor, you can always call any of the city councilors for any of the issues that you have, because of course they're there to help. Right. And I want to thank you for being here, Councilor McCarthy.
It was, it was when you called me, it was really surreal.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been on shows like this for, summer jobs and, you know, little things on like the solar power trash compactors, things like projects that I've worked on. But being on a show actually representing yourself was very surreal, and I'm very glad that I did it with you.
You know you've made it when you're on All About Boston.
That's right. This is true.
So joining me next is City Councilor Michelle Wu, I should say City Councilor-Elect Michelle Wu. And again, I want to thank you, Councilor McCarthy, for being here tonight. And I will obviously have you on many times. So.
I will come anytime.
Excellent.
No doubt.
So we will be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to All About Boston. I'm Seth McCoy. Joining me this segment is City Councilor Michelle Wu, City Councilor-Elect. I keep saying, I'm just skipping right past the inauguration, and you're just already the City Councilor, so there you go. If you have a question for us here, you can call at 617-708-3290. So congratulations. I have to say, what an impressive finish. Number 2. I mean, were you, when you were watching those numbers come in, were you just like, wow, this is like amazing?
It was very much beyond our expectations. I was thrilled just to be in the top 4 as a first-time candidate, and then to finish in second place was just, I think, an incredible testament to how hard my whole team worked. We had been knocking doors, you know, thousands of doors every week for basically since the preliminary really ramped things up, and it was just, it felt really good to see that it made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, you were out there all the time. Like, I mean, there was never any time that I ever heard anybody say, well, yeah, Michelle's nice, but, you know, she's not really working hard. Everybody was always like, she is working her butt off.
Big city to cover.
She is out there all the time. And it did seem like you were everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I mean, what I learned working on Senator Warren's campaign is that you can't expect people to come to you on the campaign trail, and in politics, right, it's great to go to the very political meetings, but you really have to put yourself out there and be not just at the ward committee meetings, but in barbershops and nail salons, and we did those business walks often. We'd be at the T at 7 a.m. just to pass out as many flyers as people would take.
Yeah. Have you been able to sleep at all yet?
You know, I tried really hard. We had scheduled, the first few days after the campaign ended, we had scheduled time for me to sleep in until like 8 or 9 or something like that, but my body was so used to getting up so early that I sprang awake, and since then, you know, we still have the routine of my sister has to get to school, and we like to drop her off whenever we can, so I think we'll take a vacation in a few weeks, but so far it's still been go, go, go.
Wow. So we actually have a phone call that came in. Caller, what's your name and what's your question?
I will plead the Fifth Amendment and not answer that first question about my name. I have a question, and it's for your guest. Does she believe and will fight for a 2-term limit for candidates?
So the question is whether or not you'll support term limits, basically.
I see.
Thank you for your call.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. I think it's very important to have turnover in the council. You know, there's been a lot of proposals on the table for, do we extend the term? Do we make it 4 years instead of 2 years? All of those proposals, including the one on term limits, I'm going to think about very carefully in terms of what it would mean for turnover. In lengthening the terms, for example, I want to make sure that we are getting new people into the process. I think it's very important for as many people as possible to be involved. I'm certainly interested in exploring the term limit conversation. I think for me, the question is it 2 terms? Is it 3 terms? Where's the best fit? Because there is an argument that you develop expertise over time, and you learn your district better, and you get better at constituent services. So for me, I haven't quite decided where the best balance is, but I do appreciate the call, and we'll be looking into it much more.
I definitely think, and you certainly don't have to answer beyond what you just said, but I definitely think that there should be a longer term, so like a 4-year term instead of a 2-year, because I do think, and you'll find this very quickly, you're going to be sworn in January 6th, and you'll, you know, dig in and get into the weeds on everything, and then before you know it,
ramp right back up again for the campaign.
Exactly. So it doesn't give the city council a lot of time to actually work and get really productive. I mean, certainly there are people who, you know, are very productive on the council and have been for years and continue to be so.
Yeah, but I think a key piece of it is also fundraising and how much that affects things. You know, we basically had to raise about $200,000. We got up to about $250,000 to run citywide and really get my message out there. So that's another thing that I would very much like to look into too, is campaign finance reform and making it easier for people to run and win. my goal, my philosophy is to make campaigning as close to governing as possible. So when you're on the campaign trail, it's not just about trying to get votes, but visiting schools and learning what's happening on the ground. And then when you're in office, being out there just as much as if you were campaigning and getting to election day.
Absolutely. We actually have another call. So, caller, what's your name and what's your question?
My name is Olga.
And your question?
Yes, my question is very short. First of all, I want to congratulate her.
Thank you.
For being the first Asiatic lady who has run for city council. And I'm not Asiatic. I think it's time we divide our city council in a manner that everybody have a piece of the pie.
Exactly.
And as a Spanish woman, I speak in turn for the Spanish people the same. I've been here for 65 years. And I have worked in Chinatown with the BRA and the South End for 12 years, so I know what I'm talking about. We need representation of all nationality.
Absolutely.
And that shows Boston is on top to teach the other state. That's the way people should treat each other. And may God bless her, and I will be praying for her.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, that was a lot of what the conversation was during the campaign, was just how diverse the field was.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had several women who were running, which is great. Definitely need to see more of that and get to the point where more women are elected, not just in the city council, but also one day for mayor. How did that play into your day-to-day routine, going out there and knowing that people are looking at you and saying, oh, she's a woman, and she's a minority woman, and getting out there, and how does that shape how you'll be as a city councilor?
Yeah, well, I very much appreciate the caller's congratulations. I do want to give strong credit to Suzanne Lee, who also had run last time and really has opened a lot of doors for Asian American women and diversity in Boston politics. On the campaign trail, I found that people who nobody ever focused on the fact that I was a woman or an Asian American as the reason why they wanted to support me. The conversation always went to issues and what people cared about. And I think sometimes race and gender are taken as shorthand for understanding a certain set of issues of a certain set of communities. But the more you spend time in the community and get to know people, I was surprised every day by how diverse every single neighborhood was. It's not just certain parts of the city that are quote unquote diverse, but also that everybody was looking for new across the board.
Right, absolutely. And I think that no matter where you come from, what you look like, we all have the same goals and aspirations for the most part. They obviously, not everybody wants to be a city councilor, but we all want the same thing, and that's being happy in our homes and, having a good job. And so all of the issues that impact the city, just because they might be focused on in a certain neighborhood or a certain demographic, doesn't mean that other people can't relate and can't work to change that.
Exactly. And I found myself talking about the same things across the city about really connecting neighborhoods to opportunity, because we have everything in Boston, universities and institutions and civic opportunities and jobs, but it's not getting to every single family in every neighborhood. So how do we connect those through to pipelines?
How do we do that?
Yeah, I think the first rule is just being out there as a government and as a city official. I found that so many people in the neighborhoods had needs that were being addressed, that there were already organizations set up to address in other parts of the city. So I remember at a Dunkin' Donuts in Hyde Park speaking with a woman who had lost her job and was having a hard time finding a new job because she wasn't familiar with internet and applying online and technology. And I was telling her about programs that we have, Operation ABLE, Jewish Vocational Services, that are there primarily to serve people with her situation. But when I told her that these programs were downtown, near Downtown Crossing or in other neighborhoods closer to downtown, she said, I would really feel more comfortable if there was something in Hyde Park or closer to me. So I think it's really about bridging those gaps in access and using every connection point we have locally, whether it's a community center, a library, a health center, a school, as access points to all of these services and resources that Boston has.
And that's a really good point, because everything is, for the most part, centered on downtown. So if people are out in Hyde Park or Mattapan, West Roxbury even, it is difficult for people sometimes to get into the city to have these services and meet the people that they need to do. So bringing whomever it is, whether it's somebody from City Hall or somebody from a school or a university, out to the community, and that can be done.
And simplifying the processes to begin with.
Right.
You know, what I worked on in City Hall for Mayor Menino was restaurant permitting, and you see a system where there are so many different permits involved. A lot of time is spent just physically going to 1010 Mass Ave or to City Hall to understand it. And the further away you live, the harder that is to do, especially if you're working multiple jobs while you're thinking about your new business idea. So the more we can get everything online, simplify the process, make it clear and predictable and accessible, the easier it will be to start businesses from the neighborhoods too.
And I think too, with a new mayor and new city councilors, all of this change that people are looking for and wanting will be easier to achieve. Are you excited about working with a new mayor, working with obviously all the city councilors? I mean, you must just be like, your mind's probably exploding. Like, you know, Councilor McCarthy was just here and he's thinking about all these ideas that he has. So what are some of the things that you want to accomplish when you first get in the door?
Yeah, so I've been talking for a year now about connecting people to resources, and I can't wait to actually do something about that. The three focus areas have been really connecting education with employment, so plugging in opportunities to students in our classrooms, and thereby giving students a reason to stay in our classrooms too and finish their education, because that's a pathway to a job. Really simplifying government processes around permitting for businesses, but also around school assignment and registering your child for school, and renovating your home and getting the permits for that. And then finally, really using data and technology to make that accessible to people in their homes or from their local community center and library.
Well, using data analytics is a new thing, of course, for a lot of people. A lot of government agencies are starting to use that. And that's really a fascinating way to figure out what's missing in different areas. And if people don't know what data analytics is, it's basically taking data and figuring out where the gaps are and how you can achieve, you know, whatever your goal is. So if you want to see, okay, where are we missing getting kids to go into after school programs, you can pull the information and see where kids are who are going into the programs and where the holes are. So it's really, it's a great way to look at the city and understand where the problems are and how to fix them.
Exactly, and because at the end of the day in government, you have very limited dollars, and you need to spend taxpayers' money very wisely. So having that information on where the areas of need are, and then therefore how best to get to them, I think is very valuable. And I think the other point about data, big data, is really inviting the public in. You know, too often we have this information, we're collecting it in the agencies, but it can take a long time for government to have the expertise to analyze it all when we're surrounded by web developers and young students who want to volunteer and give back. And if we just open things up, then, you know, in a matter of hours, the tea's data turned into tracking apps, so you could see what time the tea was going to come. So I think that's an approach that I definitely want to employ too.
Speaking of the tea, one of the things that Mayor-elect Walsh has talked about is expanding, or one of the things that's being asked of him is making sure that the tea service is expanded. Is that something that you support? Are you going to try to fight for that? Obviously, there are some people in the city young people mainly, who are saying that we need to have this option because Boston is a vibrant city, but unfortunately at 12:30, if you're taking the tea, you need to run to the tea stop so you can get home, and that sort of puts a damper on people's activities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a priority for sort of young Boston, and making sure that, you know, our businesses are supported because people can get home at night, and also an economic issue because employees who do take the late night shifts then have a means to get home themselves or their families. But transportation's an issue that cuts across all age demographics, and I would hear it just as often at senior centers that I visited. The cost of the ride doubling, and seniors feeling more and more isolated and trapped because they can't afford to go out. So really improving our transportation infrastructure across the board. I think thinking of neighborhoods not just as places where people live and then improving transportation to downtown alone, but also between neighborhoods and making each neighborhood a destination.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. When you're campaigning, you've seen all the different pockets of all the different neighborhoods, but that's something that some people who've lived in the city their entire lives never get to experience. So for example, you might have somebody in East Boston who has never been out to Hyde Park because they don't have a car, they don't have a way to get there, they don't even know what's in Hyde Park to go visit. So opening up the city so people can get around and really explore the city and realize that there are so many things to go and do in different parts of the city would be.
And that was one of my favorite parts of the campaign, was really watching all of our volunteers and all of our team get to know different chunks of the city as well and really fall in love with other neighborhoods. So I think it's an issue of transportation and the cost and how easy it is to get back and forth. It's an issue of having things to do in those neighborhoods, so supporting vibrant business districts in every neighborhood and community centers and programming. And then really, I think that is how we start really making sure that every neighborhood has a stake in the whole city.
Yeah. And I just want to mention that your Twitter handle is Woo Train. So I don't know if that was because you wanted people to jump on the Michelle Wu train to victory, or if it's because you have an affinity for the subway system.
Well, hopefully an updated, energy-efficient, modern train.
That would be nice.
No, it's a childhood nickname that I always had growing up, playing sports and other things. And also there are a million Michelle Wus out in the world, so I have no chance of ever getting my name at gmail.com or on Twitter. So.
Yeah, I don't usually have that problem. There aren't a lot of women named Seth. There are a few guys named Seth McCoy, which I don't like, but what am I going to do? I don't know. Nothing. FOMO, let's talk about that, because last time you were here, we were talking about FOMO, which of course I talk about pretty much every show. I'm waiting for them to send over some gallons or something. So you went there. And what did you
learned something at every campaign experience I have. So last time on All About Boston, I was learning about FOMO. Had the chance to go to the Alston location, and I think I had the coconut-based. I forget what flavor it was, but it was very good. Surprised by the number of options, and also there are different bases too. There's a rice-based kind, there's a coconut-based, and even all the toppings are gluten-free.
Yeah. And did you try like a bunch? Because if you go in there, for people who have not been, you can go in and stand at the counter and ask for all their different samples. I mean, you could literally walk in there and just be like, I'll try this, that, and the other thing, and never buy a thing because they'll just give you the samples. This was not on the campaign itinerary.
I did not have enough time to go to FOMO, actually. It was between two campaign events, so I happened to be driving myself between them this time, so I snuck in, got the ice cream, and was actually eating it while I was driving to my next event, just so I would say that.
Exactly. So I know we talked about like how exciting it is and all that, but what are you most looking forward to on January 6th, which of course is the inauguration?
There's so much work to do before then also, and I've been going back to a lot of the organizations that were very helpful, and visiting churches that I had gone to on the campaign trail to say thank you. I think I've never done this before, so it'll be hard to imagine exactly what it feels like, but what I imagine is that it will just be this incredible sense of gratitude and a sense that I am bringing so many voices in there with me, that it's not really about me. It's about bringing all of these groups that I got the chance to learn about and meet on the campaign trail, every community, all of our literature in 7 different languages. So really try to be that access point in City Hall and in the neighborhoods for residents. And on Inauguration Day in that chamber, I will be thinking about everyone that is represented by our victory on the campaign trail.
Is there one voice that sticks out the most?
I think about my charges and what I want to do in office in terms of stories and stories of people that have stuck with me. I think about the seniors that I visited in Hyde Park and South Boston, all over the city, who said, this is great that you're coming here, but most of all, you have to come back. And you have to give us an update. They said, don't come back right away, not after you've been inaugurated, but a couple months in to give us the update and let us know what you've been doing. I think about the Vietnamese business owners in Fields Corner, where I convened a lunch for business owners, and I had all these ideas about permitting and expediting and online stuff, and they said to me, before we can talk about this, we have to talk about public safety and the fact that our customers don't feel safe leaving their cars in our parking lots, and our employees need to feel safe at night. So there are all these moments in the campaign where I had a little shift in mentality, and it's like, this is what people care about.
Right.
It's not what I bring in and what I want to talk about. It's what people's lives are really like, and how to move that forward.
Yeah, and delivering those basic city services to people, which is obviously the bulk of what you'll be doing. Yeah. Which is very exciting. And I kind of chuckled when you mentioned the seniors saying, oh, you have to come back, not right away, because I do think that sometimes, you know, candidates go out and they're campaigning and they go to all those different spots, and then don't go back until they're campaigning again. Every once in a while you might have somebody who comes in for a coffee hour, but I do think it's very important to go back, and it sounds like, you know, I'm actually very impressed that you've even gone back to the people who along the way have helped you, just to say thank you to people, because I'm sure that means so much to people who, for the most part, probably don't get that all the time, you know, so it's just very refreshing. And I think having somebody such as yourself and Tim come in and have just this new energy. And, you know, when Tim was on here, we were talking about how he's worked in city government for his entire career. You obviously worked in the mayor's office. You have a lot of experience that you bring to the table. And it's exciting to have people like you and Tim who will be able to sit back and say, well, you know, I know that this is a way that it's been done, but let's try something new, or, you know, that's not working and we've just got to move on, or however. I just think it's really exciting.
And I ran into Tim several times when we were both knocking on doors in different parts of the city. So I also really appreciate that. I think all of the candidates that ran this time really had a focus on grassroots outreach and really being out there, having those face-to-face conversations. In many ways, we were forced to, because everybody was thinking about the mayor's race, and so to get any attention, we had to go to your doorstep. But I think that's great. That's what it's all about, and it's about keeping up that intensity afterwards, too.
Absolutely. Let's not talk about politics for a minute, but what is one of the things that you're looking forward to that has nothing to do with being a city councilor, whether it's maybe just sitting at home one day on a Sunday and not answering your phone, not answering email, and just sitting there and watching movies all day?
Yeah, I have, my husband was a film major in college, and so he is all about the movies. I've seen all of them, and we're usually very prepared for Oscar season. I have no idea what's even out there right now. I've been out of the mainstream for so long, so I think I have a lot to catch up on when we'll have spare time, which so far has not materialized since the election ended. And just spending more time with my family. I've been cooking dinner. I love to cook, and I haven't had the opportunity either. So little things like that I really appreciate, but it will be interesting.
And you'll have a short window to do that, by the way, because you'll have to sit home for maybe a whole weekend, watch all the movies on demand, cook all of the dinners that you want to, and then, you know, starting on January 7th, you're going to be off and running, and very little time to do all that stuff.
And my family has just been absolutely wonderful. My husband Connor and my two sisters have dived right in. I mean, this is a first experience for all of us politically, and they've each found their sort of niche, right? So my sister Tori loves being at the parades and bringing all her friends to march, and Connor's found himself, he prefers just holding a sign, not doing the door knocking. So it's an interesting,
door knocking is a hard thing. People don't think it is. I probably prefer that to holding a sign, but it is, you know, it's nerve-wracking when you're knocking on somebody's door who, I mean, you have no idea what is going to be behind the door at all. So it's nerve-wracking.
I'll give him a couple election cycles. We'll work him along the pipeline.
Exactly. So before we end, we obviously just had the Boston Red Sox win the World Series. Who is going to win the next championship here?
I had my Red Sox necklace on the entire time, and I'm very superstitious about sports. So, you know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think we'll do well across the board. You know, I watched hockey all growing up because my little brother played ice hockey. So always keeping my fingers crossed for the Bruins. I think they're off to a great start. Also, you know, very much looking forward to the Red Sox next season too. Although that will mean that doesn't bode well for people's attention on the statewide races. It took a lot away from our campaigning this time. But so proud of our city and everything that people went through this last year. And I think the Red Sox victory was really the epitome of Boston coming together and demonstrating that resilience, that spirit, and that attitude that we're here and we're strong. We're going to fight back.
Absolutely. Michelle, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and of course we'll have you on as the next year comes into focus, and wish you the best of luck.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Seth.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time. And again, just thanking everybody behind the scenes here. Good night.